The Lurking Presence. Chapter 1. The Unexplained Disappearance. I still remember the day I signed the lease for my new apartment, a cozy one-bedroom in an old building off campus. It was supposed to be a fresh start at college, away from the memories of high school and towards independence. Little did I know, it would become the stage where reality met a strange, supernatural play. The place had character, wooden floors creaking underfoot, and thick walls that seemed to absorb every sound. But as time passed, little by little, an unsettling feeling crept in, a nagging sense of being watched. It started with my favorite book, The Bell Jar. I distinctly remembered placing it on the nightstand beside me before going out for groceries, but when I returned, it was nowhere to be found. A gust of wind might have blown it away. The thought seemed plausible until weeks went by and other items vanished. A necklace my grandmother gave me, an old photograph, even my favorite mug. I chalked it up to careless roommates or forgetfulness, not believing the truth that began to gnaw at my mind. Someone was stealing from me. Then there were these scrawled messages on walls, etched in the same handwriting as if by a child. "You're mine now." At first, they seemed childish and harmless. I laughed them off with roommates who claimed they had no idea where they came from. Yet each night, more appeared. "I'll find you, Sarah. I know your deepest fears." They always surfaced after darkness fell, when everyone slept or left for classes. My rational mind insisted it was a prank by a mischievous neighbor or a hallucination born of exhaustion. But the words felt alive, pulsing with an unspoken malevolence that made my blood run cold. I started to question my grip on sanity as I questioned reality. I stopped sleeping, watching shadows dance across walls under flickering streetlight glow filtering through the blinds. I'd wake up and find them facing me in the dark, eyes peering from behind the couch or a silhouette hunched by the window. It was always gone when I turned to look. The sense of being watched intensified with each passing day, like something lurked just out of reach. My roommate, Rachel, swore she didn't see anything, but her laughter rang hollow as we tried to convince ourselves it was mere paranoia. The temperature inside seemed to drop even more than autumn's chill. One night, an icy gust brushed against my neck while I sat at my desk studying. I spun around, expecting no one. Empty space greeted me. Shadows cast by the lamp danced and twisted, mocking me with their movement. I checked the thermostat. It was turned off, but I could swear the air was frigid. The apartment felt possessed. I made a conscious effort to ignore these eerie incidents until that night. Lying in bed, the words "you're next" painted across the wall caught my attention before I fell asleep. My dreams were dark and vivid. Whispers, hands closing around my throat, eyes glowing in the darkness. When I woke, drenched in sweat, something felt different, like I couldn't recall specifics of the night before. That's when I stumbled upon it. A piece of paper with my name penned in crimson ink. Mine. It wasn't just a prankster or my mind unraveling. In this quiet apartment, where time seemed to slow and sounds distorted, something was playing a twisted game. Rachel noticed the marks too. Her eyes said she'd rather not discuss it. My resolve hardened as I vowed to uncover the truth. I purchased a journal and began documenting every event, an attempt at logic amidst chaos. The next morning, my favorite necklace lay on the nightstand again, along with the book, The Bell Jar. Maybe someone was playing a twisted prank or playing head games. Yet, why only these specific items? The scrawls were back. They're waiting for you. My gaze roved over the room. Were they watching me now? I turned, and in my periphery, saw movement by the window. A fleeting glimpse. A dark shape darted behind curtains that billowed out into the windless night air. I jerked towards it with my heart hammering in my chest, but no one was there. My breath fogged as I approached. Nothing but darkness greeted me. Rachel had moved back to her hometown for break, leaving me alone and uneasy. Itching for answers, I decided to ignore it all. I needed a semester's peace. But the presence didn't allow reprieve. That night, just before sleep, I caught sight of something moving in my peripheral vision again. I bolted upright as it vanished into shadows. The room was quiet until a single word scraped against the wall. Run. I listened with bated breath, but there was no sound besides the ticking clock outside and an occasional passing car on the street. I slept fitfully, jolted by a hand grasping my shoulder. No one was there as I turned. The room seemed to swallow me whole in darkness when I rose to investigate. And that's when I saw it. Mine scrawled across the wall with an ominous red stain next to it, like blood. Dread clawed at my throat. There were no signs of intruders or hidden cameras. They weren't just random messages anymore. That night, a shiver coursed down my spine as I watched the door. When I turned back, mine blazed in crimson ink from the floor to ceiling, trailing along the wall like brushstrokes of a madman's hand. My sanity teetered on a thread as I wondered. Was it all in my head, or something else? With rising fear and determination, I knew what I had to do. The search for answers must begin. Chapter 2. The Silent Intruder. I began documenting every detail. Strange movements, the messages, the eerie cold spots. Each entry felt like a confession, trying to make sense of unexplained phenomena in my quiet world. But it wasn't just objects disappearing. They reappeared elsewhere in the apartment. It was as if someone was playing cat and mouse with me. One night, huddled under blankets for fear of those unseen shadows, I glimpsed movement out of the corner of my eye. A tall figure, then nothing but darkness. Heart pounding, I whirled around. Only shadows moved across the wall. When I finally fell asleep, an insomniac nightmare racked me. Crawling along walls, faceless figures in hooded robes, and whispers that seemed to follow from everywhere. Upon waking, my breath fogged as it always did when night cooled to cold air. In the morning, I opened the curtains to find "You will never leave" scrawled across the glass. Frosty droplets of condensation encasing the words like an unseen hand had pressed them into being. In my room, a book lay open. Not mine or Rachel's. It was titled The Devil's Diary. A chill crept up my spine as I recognized it. Every word seemed to scream with malevolence. The cover felt cold and damp to the touch, as if held by invisible fingers before I grabbed it tightly. Each entry spoke of a dark entity that had haunted this very apartment. A Sarah entered, drawn in red ink, similar to my name's color. Intrigued and frightened, I read on, learning of an ex-tenant named Amelia who died here under unsettling circumstances. The writing detailed encounters with the same unseen presence, drawing her into a descent into madness. Her diary ended abruptly in bloodstains. Shivers coursed down my spine as I closed it. I felt watched even more intensely now. It was time to explore this place where nightmares came to life. As day broke and sunlight poured through curtains, I faced the window with an open heart, praying for a sign of life beyond specters. The frost on glass was gone, but there. "Sarah, they're coming." The door slammed shut. I was locked in. Shadows danced within my room, elongated like those hooded figures from my nightmare. Heart battering my rib cage, I sought solace beneath the sheets with a flashlight clutched tight. They were no longer random shadows, but moving silhouettes skittering against curtains. A faceless apparition appeared at the window, a gaunt figure that vanished before I could look away completely. My room was no sanctuary anymore as it loomed, its presence solidifying like smoke and dust settling. Amelia's diary spoke of being chased by these shadows, then darkness encroaching. They were coming for me if this was real. I faced my closet door with dread. Perhaps I'd uncover the truth behind it all. It swung open, revealing a narrow passageway into darkness. Amelia's passage out of hell or another trap. An unseen hand brushed against the door as I stepped into that suffocating space. In the darkness, I crawled forward with heart in my throat and flashlight trembling in my hand. It had been so long since light touched this crypt-like hallway. My eyes adjusted. A faint glow emanated from the far end, an eerie red light beckoning me to follow ancient secrets buried within walls that held secrets of madness. The air was heavy with an otherworldly presence, thick and fetid, as if putrid secrets waited around each corner. With every step towards the crimson glow, I questioned my sanity. I'd have answers or flee this place before they claimed another victim like Amelia. At the end of the passageway stood a door to a hidden room, locked with rusted hinges. As I fumbled for keys, Sarah was carved in a wooden blood. Not mine, but red paint that had dried long ago. The lock gave way. An unseen force pressed against me from behind before it clicked open, like something wanted my investigation. Dust coated everything. Layers of years, but there was no dust here now. Candles flickered as I entered the small space. It wasn't just shadows anymore. It was real. An old desk faced a mirror where Amelia wrote those harrowing entries in her own blood. My reflection stared back with sunken eyes and skin that matched my book's cover. Red-hued lipstick painted a macabre smile, mimicking a wicked grin. I recognized the lipstick mine. In this room, where madness brewed decades ago, something had taken control of my appearance. A sudden gust blew through as the door slammed shut behind me, trapping me in crimson twilight. It was time to uncover Amelia's fate and escape, or prove her story mere legend. Desks were stacked, hiding unknown truths. Letters from an unseen pen pal, pleas for help amidst madness. They ended abruptly in red ink, to be found scrawled across a letter meant for the last resident. I followed those cryptic clues that night, tracing my path to an old trunk buried beneath a pile of books on her desk. Amelia's laughter echoed from behind me as something moved in the mirror. Dark shadows seethed around it, like watching eyes. Dust and decay crumbled at my touch, revealing what adorned with bloodstains and symbols not meant for this earth. They called to an old horror within me when I shouldn't be here alone. Chapter 3. The Final Confrontation. Amidst the wreckage, a trunk creaked open, leather-bound, adorned with the same crimson lipstick smile and symbols from my dreams. Amelia's words were mine now, telling of an otherworldly bond between us as she descended into her own hell. I wore a red dress, just like in those final entries. The mirror image stared back at me. In this layer, blood-stained letters fell away to reveal a door with rusty hinges that groaned under my touch, leading outside in the night air. Shadows swam as if they'd been summoned by my desire for answers. Outside lay a dilapidated shack near an old well. A lonely tree swayed in the wind. In crimson light, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. A door creaked open, beckoning me to enter where darkness roared back to life as if it sensed me. Inside, blood-stained pages and letters littered an iron bed under tattered sheets. On the nightstand, my book waited. Mine. I was Amelia. She had become me, and vice versa in this waking nightmare. The book now bore name on. I opened it to learn of her demise at the well's edge after writing those final entries. Or so I thought. Amelia spoke of an ancient evil that followed her from another world, drawn to her red lipstick smile. Now, they're one of my own. I knew this darkness. Blood oozed between the pages as I read on. Their hunger for blood was insatiable. In the shack, there was one last entry. It came home. Red laughter echoed beyond the trees, beckoning me forward in a voice that wasn't quite mine, yet still sounded familiar. As the final leaf turned to rustle free of the wind, I descended through the darkness. The well's edge now too close. Amelia spoke with a voice not her own, but one that resonated within. In her night, it had been my own when she'd fallen at dawn, as if she fell into me in death, and now rose again in blood that soaked attire of crimson gowns. It was time to embrace the darkness or flee in fear of what I'd become. The voice laughed once more before falling silent, as if knowing my choice was near. The world awaited outside with a smile painted red like blood. As morning dawned and night's veil lifted, the shack seemed abandoned still, but something waited where shadows met moonlight. They were real now. They had to be for what I'd become. Red laughter echoed, an unmistakable voice. The girl whose fate I discovered within pages long dead or trapped somewhere between worlds. In her red dress and a face that was mine too, I rose from those nightmarish depths as if Amelia had been reborn in hell itself. My face felt set with lipstick, hair wild amidst my own. Yet it wasn't just crimson hues that painted the sky. I couldn't ignore the well at the edge of town that waited to claim what they'd summoned. A victim drawn by my red smile, painted on parchment pages. And there she was. I am home. Tears stained her dress as she looked up from the precipice of death into this world's dawn. Blood seeped through her clothes and trickled down crimson lipstick lips that still held the stench of darkness. The well beckoned, a call to my soul, an abyss for one who dared not escape what dwelled beneath my skin now. Red lips parted in a wide smile as I rose from the night's chill into a world where nothing was mine but a life bound by blood and hellish laughter. I'd been there all along.